Good evening. This is the Litchfield Elementary School District Governing Board meeting, and we are now called to order. My name is Danielle Clymer. I'm the president of the governing board, and welcome to a not so regular meeting of our district. As many of you know, the governor has put a stay-at-home order in place. So instead of trying to come together and properly socially distance, we are going to attempt to have a virtual meeting here today. There's a few rules that we'll be using for this meeting, and I will list them here just in advance. Although all members of the board are not gathered in a central physical location, we do have a quorum, which is at least 3, in attendance at this meeting by video conference and will join us by telephone. We are meeting by use of Zoom, and you are watching us on YouTube, which allows for members of the public to view and or listen to this meeting. All other meeting procedures will adhere to board adopted procedures to the extent practical. An audio recording or minutes of this meeting will be available to the public no later than April 17th. This will be in the same location on our website that they know. And just as a side note, we apologize in advance for any technical difficulties or any problems that arise. Our IT department is doing the very best they possibly can to make sure that we are all connected and everyone can hear and everything. So if you are having any difficulty, please have patience and hopefully we can get everything figured out, whether you are here on our Zoom call or watching this on YouTube. So thank you for joining us. And we are going to start with our pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right. Thank you very much. We are going to move through our agenda to item number 2. I'm going to move right off the top that we are suspending our district policy BEDH, which is our public participation at a board meeting. Due to the virtual meeting of the format of this meeting, there will be no call to the public. What I hope will happen is that if there is anyone that has comments or questions in regards to this meeting or any other district business, they will contact the office of the superintendent, either via telephone or via email, or any of the board members via email. All of that information is listed on our district website. So I will start by, I move to suspend district policy BEDH for the
This is Kimberly Moran. I will second.
Okay, one other request is we are going to do a roll call vote for each of our votes so that everyone can clearly see who's voting for what. So I will call you individually for your vote. So starting with Elaine Weathers.
I'm sorry, did you say starting with me?
Correct. I just need your vote on suspending.
Correct. Okay. I'm sorry, Danielle. Elaine Weathers, yes.
Okay. Melissa Zweidema?
Melissa Zweidema, yes.
Kim Moran?
Kim Moran, yes.
Dr. Fitzer?
Tanya Fitzer, yes.
Danielle Clymer, I'm a yes as well. And board members, just as an FYI, please make sure that you're doing your electronic voting as well, as we normally do with our meetings. Okay. Moving on to reports from administrators. Thank you to Julie DePost and Megan DePlane for putting those reports together for us. This is an information only section, so if you have questions on the report, you can do so now. If you have specific questions on our COVID-19 response, school closure, or distance learning that were included in this report, there will be another section for that at the bottom. So I ask that you hold your questions and discussion for those items. Anything else in the administrative reports that you have questions on, feel free to ask those now.
I don't have any questions.
Okay. No one else?
No questions from either.
All right, great. Thank you very much. We will move on to our superintendent report from Jody Gunning. Jody, are you there? How are you doing?
I'm here. Thank you. I'm doing very well. Tonight, we included our survey information that we had in before, and we'll continue to just keep that in, and we'll share that, all of that information when we're back together in a personal meeting. So, but just wanted to leave that in there so that you have the opportunity to look at it. Tonight, I just really want to celebrate our PTAs and PTOs, our parent organizations, for all that they do for us throughout the entire year, and have really stepped up even during the COVID closure of our schools. So grateful to them and so appreciative. And then also just a shout out to our staff for just stepping up in a very uncertain time. Our teachers really learning and experiencing distance learning and just being brave and really going out there and trying their best and improving every week. So just a huge shout out to those groups.
Great. Thank you, Jody, very much. I will start with the reports from governing board members. I know this month has been very different. Typically, superintendent and the board members each go through the various things, activities, things that we've been involved in throughout our schools and our students and things like that. And it seems like so many aspects of our life have stopped, right, over the last month. There are several things and several people that haven't stopped. And those people are our principals, our teachers, our school staff, our food service, transportation. They're brushing up on their skills, doing professional development and training for next year. The entire district staff, from special ed, HR, finance and accounting, payroll, IT, curriculum. I'm leaving somebody out, I'm sure. Communications, professional development. There's so many different groups that are working so hard right now to work through these unprecedented times and figure it all out, to be totally honest. So I'm so thankful for the hard work. And not only as a board member, but as a president, as a parent, and as a member of this community, I'm thankful for the work that the district is putting in for my kids and all of our students. So thank you very much. With that, I do want to say in this, specifically to all of our staff members and teachers and our parents and everyone out there, that we understand that these times are difficult. In the last month and a half have been challenging on so many different levels, whether it's personal, what's going on in your household, or job level, or with your family. And I'm so happy to hear of all of the support stories that I've seen, whether it be on social media or through personal connections of people supporting one another throughout the district, which is absolutely the Litchfield way. So I'm happy to hear that. But please know that we are still here working and doing our best to guide the district in the best way that we know how. So we're still asking the tough questions and still trying to figure out how to make things as good as they possibly can be over the next 4 to 6 weeks as we finish out this school year strong. We're going to continue to set expectations for ourselves, strive for excellence, because that is the LASD way. We're going to continue to do that, and I think every week we've seen we've been getting stronger, and I fully expect that we're going to continue to do that throughout the end of the school year. So there's a lot of unanswered questions for all of us, and we'll do our best to work through those tonight. I'm sure as the weeks progress, we'll be able to get a lot more answers to that. But right now it's the time to just pull together and move forward, and that we can do. So thank you very much to everyone who's working so hard, and we know that the district staff and the governing board may be working behind the scenes, but we're doing all the work that we can do to make this time just a little bit easier for you. So with that, I'll open the floor to any other governing board member that would like to give an individual report.
This is Kimberly Moran. I would like to add that I would also like to give a thank you to the parents who have stepped up into very unexpected roles of more hands-on educating of their own children than they thought was going to be the case. And many have gone above and beyond. I would also encourage any parents out there who are struggling to reach out help. Start with the normal chain of command where you have relationships with your teachers, of course, first and foremost, and then move up to the principal level. And do not be afraid to reach out and ask for. This is a stressful time, and we are there to support you as well. And we want you to know that we are there. So please keep those lines of communication open. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I just want to make sure, I wanted to add, sorry, Melissa's item, that I want to give a big shout out to our IT department because none of this would be possible without them. They have had to step up tremendously in all these kids and all these teachers that are doing this online learning now and making sure that everything's working so teachers can do their Zoom meetings and have all this stuff accessible to students. And they had to do it in such a very quick timeline that I just want to thank our IT department, all of them, for working so hard to make sure that this can happen so our kids can keep learning in this time.
Thank you.
If I could say something as well. I'm sorry, Danielle.
Go ahead,
Go ahead.
No, you're okay. Go ahead, Elaine.
Yeah, just a quick note to carry on with what everyone else had just said, how wonderful everyone's doing, and just how just reinstate the family unit that we have here at Litchfield. And I think everyone's doing the best that they can, and we know that everyone's doing the best that they can, and so we're just all going to keep doing the best that we can and support each other and get through it. So thank you to follow on the suit tails of them as well.
And I'll just round. Oh, sorry,
Tanya, go ahead.
Lachlan, basically just going to round it out with essentially the same sentiment. You know, one of the things I tell my girls when they're sad about not seeing their teachers or their friends or whatever is, you know, we're all in this together. Everyone's in the same boat. A lot of people have it a whole lot worse than us. You know, it's not perfect, but I think we're doing really well for the situation that we have. And, you know, whether it's the parents, the teachers, the admin, as Melissa said, IT, huge shout out, you know, talk about completely changing your job description in a minute. So, you know, again, I just want to shout out to basically everyone in this district, from the kids all the way up to Jody. You know, poor Jody has had some tumultuous waters to steer us through pretty much every year. Hopefully next year will just be a normal year. That'd be nice. So I won't try not to jinx that, but just thanks to everybody for working so hard to make this, you know, as positive as it can be.
Absolutely. And to Jody's point earlier about our parent teacher organizations, PTOs, PTAs, PTSAs, you know, typically this month we recognize them at our governing board meeting, and I apologize profusely that we can't do that tonight. Hopefully we'll be able to do that in other ways and have you come back to another meeting. But these organizations are vital to our school communities and our families to stay connected to our school. There's so much work that's done by parent volunteers and teachers coming together. I think many of us on the board started our school journeys and our way to the governing board by starting in a parent teacher organization and starting there first. So in really getting involved in our schools in that way. So they are vital to our success. So I apologize we can't be together tonight, but know that we really thank you from the bottom of our hearts. This wouldn't be the same without you. So thank you very much. All right, so we'll wrap up our reports and move on to the consent agenda. There are several items on the consent agenda. If you have any that you would like to pull off or discuss further, we can do that. Otherwise, I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda items as presented.
I second.
Okay. Again, we're going to do a roll call vote. So I will start with Elaine Weathers. We are voting to approve consent agenda items as presented.
Elaine Weathersby, yes.
Melissa?
Melissa's item, a yes.
Tanya?
Tanya Fitzer, yes.
Kim?
Kimberly Moran, yay.
Daniel Clymer, I am also yay, so that motion passes. Thank you very much. We will jump down again on the agenda now to number 12. This is our COVID-19 school closure update with Jody.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the governing board. So as we're getting into kind of the heart of this closure, each week we're constantly analyzing all of the components. There's a lot of moving pieces. So let's talk about distance learning first. So in the beginning, we were unsure exactly how long the schools would be closed until the governor had placed it till the end of the school year. So we brought together several principals to design what our plan would look like and how we could kind of step our game up each week and get better and improve in that area. So they designed a plan and worked with all of the principals to confirm that plan. And then we're kind of working through that now. The beautiful thing was that we also had Laura Combs in her role as an educational technology coordinator to help support our staff. And she provides office hours on a daily basis, also help to contribute to the PD hub that was created. And that was created by a committee as well for all the different options that we had for our teachers for professional development, as well as even our local district education association, our AEA, also supported in the professional development piece and hub to add so many different options for all of our staff and all of our teachers too. So they've been working tirelessly on that. The other pieces that we're working through right now too is this is the heart of our evaluation season, evaluation of both classified and certified. So we're working through those components as well. And we'll be bringing things back to you in May because with the closure, we had to make some adjustments. I think we're getting together a pretty good plan. We've presented some options to our career development committee last week. We presented, we'll be presenting options to our superintendent's advisory council this week, as well as we sought input from our LDEA as well. Just looking at the different components of our bonus system and career development program as well. So trying to work out what would be fair and how do we kind of help them to get through this time. Next pieces that we'll be looking at is timelines for closing out for the school year and what does that look like? How do we, if we're still at a stay home, how do we rotate people through safely so that they can kind of close up their room for the year? How do we bring in our people to close up all the paperwork side of the school closure as well? So those will be some of the next steps that we'll be working on too. And I'd be more than happy to take any questions. And I have Megan and Gina here as well as Wendy to answer any others like specific questions in regards to the closure at this time.
This is Kimberly Moran. I have a few questions. My first question is looking at the distance learning plan, phase 4, which is the phase that starts next week, has a minimum requirement on the elementary level of 1 lesson per week, rotating each week, 1 lesson in math 1 week, 1 lesson in reading the next week. Why are we setting the standard so low for 1 lesson, 1 new lesson per week at the K-5 level?
Well, that's 1 live lesson. So the other lessons will be embedded within the lesson plan throughout, just like they have been throughout the lesson plan through the typical week. But really trying to grow that live lesson and that online learning. So kind of taking it in slower steps. We have lots and lots of teachers that are already excelling in this area and already kind of jumping way above and beyond. So we were kind of just bringing up those ones that are struggling, and this is brand new to them, to kind of bring them up to that level so that they had the opportunity to get the training and to kind of get comfortable with that. Also kind of working through the differences of a middle school setting as well as an elementary setting too, and making sure that they have all the components and pieces in place so that they feel comfortable and safe in their own right of delivering the lesson online. Gina, is there anything more that you would like to add?
I think you summed it up pretty well. I mean, it's giving our teachers the opportunity really to get the PDs, the most important thing. We have teachers right out of the gate. You have the whole spectrum of technology skills. And so giving everybody a chance to get on board and get moving.
So they will have lessons like, every day, but a lot of those will be Khan Academy and different lessons that will teach the children, but it's not directly the teacher. We wanted to add one live lesson a week to supplement that, to start, like Jody said, build the momentum of that skill set. But it'll still be all the lessons embedded throughout the week as it is now, but we're adding direct teaching from the teacher.
And another thing we were trying to keep in mind too is we have parents with multiple children with not necessarily multiple devices at home for kids to be online for a significant amount of time. That is some of the feedback that we've gotten. Plus we have teachers that have kids at home. So just really trying to slowly roll things out so that everyone can kind of maintain some sort of balance and keep up with everything that's new.
Okay, my point of reference here is the high school. I have 2 high schoolers, and there's a large spectrum of comfortableness with video teaching there as well. Some of the teachers that my children have had never done an online lesson, certainly not comfortable with YouTube or webcams or anything, but they started out of the gate and have become more comfortable. I personally think that we should be ramping this up. I don't think that for 420 through the rest of the year, 1 live lesson per week is the Litchfield way. I feel like that is not enough. I think we'll address the technology, I think, in some other questions that we have as well. But yeah, I'd like to see that. I'd like to see that stepped up myself. Another question really kind of related to that and kind of the minimum requirements that we're setting is it also looks like we're asking for 1 virtual meeting per week with the entire class. Tell me more about how that was decided and how 1 meeting per week meets what we were trying to accomplish.
So I think that was tapping into that connection piece and the connection with the entire class and grade level, and making sure that they we're getting comfortable with that piece. So in addition to, like, in a typical day, the teachers are balancing so many different pieces. So not only the instructional piece, feedback, answering emails, and then a lot of our teachers are doing the phone calls. So every campus is a little bit different. And so trying to just balance our Title I schools with our non-Title schools, where a lot of their interactions with their students on a daily basis are phone call based, which takes a lot of time when you're calling your kids one-on-one. So just trying to find that balance with such a vast dynamic of students, families, and access. So that was our intent of that. And Megan, you might, I don't know if there's something more you want to chime in on.
Yeah, the goal of the classroom meeting time is that conscious discipline time to connect as a family, do some celebrations, some wish wells, to check in, just to do some of that family building. So that was the goal for that. And so we figured once a week right now, that was good enough. I mean, that was enough right now, but then they would have the individual office hours to address any academic issues. This was the time for connection building and building the class family.
This is Danielle. I agree with the ideas behind everything that you're saying. I think it makes a whole lot of sense to do all of these things and roll them out over time. But I would tend to agree with Kim that looking at 6 weeks left in the year, it's, I'm hearing a lot of challenges and outliers and things like that, which are not going to go away. So I'm not diminishing those by any means. I mean, obviously getting people connected and supported and all of that kind of stuff is our number 1 priority right now. But, doing 1 math lesson a week and 1 reading lesson on the opposite week, I would agree, doesn't feel like enough. I mean, I'm not doing that. I'm not in the classroom. I'm not teaching that. So I'm certainly not trying to write curriculum here by any means, but I do feel like we need to raise our expectations over time. We phased this in, and I think you guys have done a really good job of sort of ramping up to help support families that didn't that couldn't have started out of the gate with this, because it's a lot for everyone to have to deal with. But the way that you have structured it, at least from what I've seen, is, you do what you can do. So if you can't do everything on Monday, then you roll some of that over to Tuesday, and that's the beauty of having that week lesson plan, to make sure students have things on a daily basis, but also on a weekly basis, so parents can really, if they're dealing with multiple kids or lack of technology and devices, they can spread that out over time, which I think is a really great idea. But just in agreement that we should be striving for excellence. We should be giving children more and more opportunities to connect with their teacher or their class, or have lessons taught to them, whether they log on to every single one of them or not. So I would just encourage you to try to continue to increase those expectations. And I know what I'm saying full well impacts our classroom teachers the most, because, and our principals who are overseeing 30 or 40 teachers on campus. And I understand that. And if we need to lighten the load in other places in order for them to focus the majority of their time on connecting with students, then maybe that's something that we need to do. I just think we've got 6 weeks left in the game. And I think what we're doing today can't be what we're doing 6 weeks from now.
Well, and I think too that we continue to always monitor and adjust. And what I have seen is every time that we've even raised the bar a little, our teachers excel. And just watching even social media and all the pictures that we're receiving and all the input, the teachers are really going above and beyond and really reaching out to their families. Now, is everyone at the same level? No, but I would say the majority of the staff has really done a great job. And the ones that are getting there are working their tails off to get there. So I know that they're working so hard and making those connections with their families in so many different ways. And I think that is so important. And they're doing that all while juggling. The majority of our staff members have their own families at home, as well as or taking care of their parents. Or a spouse or a partner who is not well too. So they're juggling a lot of plates right now. And overwhelmingly, I would say the response that we've received from our parents and our families have been so positive, just reaching out left and right. So I know that there are a few outliers, but probably no more, and actually probably less than we would get in a typical regular quarter. During this time. So, of course, we always step up, and we've already excelled a lot of what our neighboring districts are doing. We are not a one-to-one, so we weren't as ready and prepared as Agua Fria. They were already set up for Google Classroom. I mean, they were just set to jump off and run, but we are excelling compared to a lot of our other districts, and a lot of districts haven't even gone to online at all. They're still doing all paper packets or just one local resource where you go on to the district level. And we didn't want that. We wanted our kids to get their information from their teachers and to be connected directly to their teachers. So, but definitely we always will strive to make improvements and grow in those areas.
I'd like to, I'm sorry, Kim, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I have a bunch more questions. Kimberly Moran again. So I want to revisit a few things that were mentioned there. Let's go back to the statement that teachers are reaching out to students by phone, by email, doing those connections. Have we reached every student in our district? And if the answer to that is no, how many have we not been able to make contact with?
I don't have data on exactly how many we have not, but I know they've reached out to every single child and every single family. And when a teacher reaches out, and they've reached out either via phone, via email, and or actual mail, where they're sending a postcard or a letter to the family. If they're still not feeling like they're getting any kind of response, then it goes up to the principal, and the principals are reaching out. And then we also even have several of our registrars just reaching out to families too, to just check in. If they're seeing that they're, some families that we just haven't heard from. So they're reaching out in multiple different ways, as well as we've been also visiting all of the food site services. I went around to the mobile services as well and reaching out to those families as we're there, as they're getting their meals for the day too. So, but I don't have like a hard number.
Okay, if you had to guess, I mean, just based on the feedback that you've received from principals or teachers, or how much time the teachers are spending or principals are spending trying to track down these families, because my gut tells me the majority of these families that you might not be in contact with are those families that actually would need additional supports. When I look at the survey results that you published to us, those results from the distance learning survey feedback look very skewed to me, because the majority comes from 3 schools. Half the results came from 3 schools: Litchfield Elementary School, Palm Valley Elementary School, and Verrado Middle School. In generalities, broad generalities, those schools are going to be well supported with technology and with teacher supports and with family supports. Better so than some of our other schools, especially our Title I schools.
So the survey, the principals had over 2 weeks to do that. So a lot of the surveys are still going out this week. So we'll definitely get all of the results from all of the community members. I would say it's a smaller number of students that they haven't been in contact with. The principals are at their schools and at their campuses for the families to pick up their packets, and the families love coming in and touching base with their staff members. They're even able to get any supplies that they need, like if they need pencils or markers or crayons. So they're able to get those at that time as well. So they've been definitely keeping in contact, and they have the packets, as well as can ask any questions at that time too. We also have spaces where people can leave a message, so that then they can be contacted back. So if they call, they can be reached both at the middle school level and at the elementary level, so that they can reach out to those families directly. The teachers are balancing both the online supports as well as the packet, so to speak, supports. So whenever they need to, they're reaching out to those students one-on-one, and it could be that the child's reading a story to them over the phone, asking them a question about the packet specifically, asking them to walk through any struggles that they might have had if it was a math problem or anything along those lines.
And I asked to add that data from the survey in our report. So we probably shouldn't have done that. We wanted to give you what the data that we had already, but now in hindsight tells me that we should have just waited to have it all to give to you. So that was my fault, that it wasn't given at the end once we received all the data.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say that giving us the data that you had was wrong. It just, because I want feedback as this is happening. We don't have that long to make this optimal as we can. The other side of that is when I look at this distance learning plan, and I think that there is a possibility that we will not be back in school in the beginning of August, this low bar that we've set, surely we can't start the new year off. If it comes to that, surely we can't start the new school year off with this low of a level of learning. I understand that we were toward the tail end of the year. We were going to have our testing, and usually after testing, we still learn, but we have some fun time too. And I'm totally a proponent of that. But I don't see where this level would be sustainable. And I think we should be at a sustainable level.
Well, and I think
if I could, I'm sorry, Jody, go ahead, you can respond.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, kind of piggybacking onto what Kim was saying in terms of planning for contingency and really being prepared for what's going to happen. I'd like to see the report first before I speak, obviously of turn, but in terms of technology and what our students have access to, I think to Gina's point earlier, right, we have families that have multiple children, we have children that do not have devices at home. We've got packets going out. We've got, we kind of got all of these different layers, but we have lots of technology at our disposal. And I know that it's not as easy as just flipping the switch, right? I totally understand that. I'm not an IT professional, but I do understand there's a lot that goes into that. However, To my point earlier, we've got 6 weeks left. If there are any resources that we need, why are we not doing that now? Why are we not making those things available to our students and our families, and figuring it out? I just feel like technology right now seems to be the most important factor of what we're doing for our teachers, and I'm 100% confident that our IT department is supporting them in their needs and giving them professional development and what they need in order to teach kids. But we need to do the same on the other side. We need to have kids that can actually see those lessons, and kids that can interact with their teachers and meet for their weekly Zoom calls with their class, and get all of the good stuff and not just the paper worksheets. So what can we do? Like, how in the world can we create some connectivity there with technology and help our students that are really in some of our schools that are in desperate need of us, to prepare them for what's going to come next year?
So I think part of that is that we have to look into now what software, and because they weren't one-to-one devices. So we have to look at what components and pieces that we have to put on our devices. What do we need to buy prior to dispersing them, because they weren't designed for a one-to-one. So that's something that we could have our technology department. Now our technology department is small in size. So the other part is then if you have devices out there, how do you service if they're not working, or who do they call? How do they exchange them? All of those pieces. We just weren't ready for that piece because we were trying to just work through all of these new components. And so we knew that that was the first step. We are starting, and I've already been thinking about like what happens if this does last longer, and or even more so of what if we need to offer different options for kids next year. So if there's a smaller pocket or a small component that maybe they're not ready to return to the school setting yet, what could we do? And those are things that we're definitely kind of talking through and looking at and mapping out now. I would say there are fewer districts than most that are out there with the one-to-one components, and most of them as a high school setting. So trying to tap into them and their expertise. Even a lot of the ones that are dispersing, the majority of the families, a lot of them are still getting paper packets. So they're still doing the paper packet side too. So just trying to balance all those pieces. So yeah, I mean, we're getting to that stage where we can start to look at those things. We're just trying to kind of get our heads above water just a little bit so that we can see what those next steps, because there are also so many legal components. So we're definitely interacting with legal counsel a lot. Not that that's related to your IT side of it, but there's so many other moving pieces that we're just trying to get in line so that we can ensure that we're compliant and that we have all those pieces too. And then of course, definitely looking at what would be the next steps, as if we would have to transition to an online learning component possibly in the future, or even having that option.
Right, and I agree that clearly we were not ready for this, any of this, not just the IT stuff, right? I mean, you know, what you guys have put together in under a month is great. So we've made strides in a lot of different areas. So I don't certainly want to say that the basic things haven't been done, because that's not in fact the case. I guess I'm just saying now that this is one of those pieces that no, it's not going to be perfect, and it's not going to be something that we roll out with months of research and data that shows us how this is going to work best and all that kind of stuff. But getting a laptop into a kid's hand, that's the difference between him showing up to school because his mom can use her cell phone versus having a school-issued laptop that they can interact with people. Might make a world of difference for the next 4 weeks for several students. I don't know if we're talking about hundreds or we're talking about tens. I really don't know because I haven't seen the data. But I would just encourage you to look at what can be done, even if it's not perfect. Good is going to have to be good enough in this time to get technology into the hands of kids and figure out how we can support that. I hear everything that you're saying, and I don't discount the number of hours it's going to take to do that. I just really think it's important. Really think it's important to make sure that we provide as much equity our students as we can. And this just feels like one of those really important things that could be a game changer for so many kiddos.
Can I add something to that, Danielle? This is Kimberly Moran.
Sure.
I don't think what we're asking for or what we think is needed is a one-to-one device plan. I think what Danielle and is saying, and what I would be in high favor of, is getting technology into the hands of those kids that want it and need it but don't have it. And I don't think that's the majority. Obviously, we have a lot of kids that are already on Zoom and doing the things that we're offering right now. But as Danielle said, we don't have those survey results. I think those surveys went out 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I'm not sure why we don't have the technology results back at this point. But I think we just want to help those kids that want to do more and be more connected have the capabilities of doing that. Not everyone, not every student in our district.
Hi, this is Melissa. Can I say something about that? I was just thinking that it's not just computers, though. We might have kids that don't have access to internet at their homes. We might have kids that are making it work right now with whatever devices are at their parents' house. But if we do open up and have devices available for people, they're going to be like, oh, yeah, we would like that, because then my kid doesn't have to use my computer that I'm trying to work on or use my phone. And how are we going to make that work? The other thing is that we want to make sure that we're not putting too much on our kids either, because this is a traumatic time for these kids as well. And putting all this pressure on them and all this added stuff on them isn't going to help them either.
I can follow on to that as well. As far as the data is concerned from the 3 schools, hey, I'm fine seeing that data as it comes in. I don't think that was a mistake either here nor there. Having known that others would be coming in and then added to the pot, okay, sure. As far as the teachers are concerned, you know, from what I have seen, and I have seen many lessons plans, I have been online, I have opened them, I would say the majority of our teachers are already doing far more than one online lesson, whether that's a lesson plan or meeting with their classes every day and Zooming and reading books. So the contact is definitely there. Now, I could see how if we have some people who are falling behind, who are having a hard time meeting a standard, requiring them to have one online lesson, I can understand implementation in that regard. But as it is right now, I mean, uncharted territories don't necessarily mean that we have to continue to push everybody out of a comfort zone that they're in. I mean, everyone does have to push beyond, of course, but the added stress to what people are already excelling at, Kim, to your point about the one lesson, if that's what we are back to the original topic of, from what we've seen, I'm going to trust our district right now in what our teachers are doing so that everybody is coming out the best that they can. And Jody, I don't know if you can walk us through, but the lesson plans that I see and from what I hear, you know, the meetings that are continuing on every day, and what's the typical day of a teacher look like?
Okay, so let me.
Jody, while you're pulling that up and preparing that answer, if I can just respond to Melissa and your technology question or your comment. I do agree that as with anything, of course, anything that we do, you're going to have people that do it out of convenience or abuse of policy or whatever. I absolutely agree with that. And we have to work to minimize that. And I'm not suggesting that we provide technology to require more of the kids. I'm suggesting that we provide technology for kids that do not have it so that they can be involved and incorporated at all. Because I think there are some kids right now that are probably not. There has to be. I mean, we have almost 12,000 students. I mean, there has to be folks out there that are not being able to be connected in the way that they are, and the way it should be. Yes, we are always going to have issues with internet, and you're absolutely right. We can't do everything for all people. You're right. That is a very fair point, and we're going to run up into lots of problems like this. I guess my really the underlying point to everything is we are doing a good job. I just want to make sure we're doing a good job for everyone. And, equity typically isn't an issue in our classrooms as much as it is now at home. Because I know that Jody and everyone in the district tries extremely hard to make sure that we have equitable resources across the district, whether it's a Title I school or a middle school or an elementary or what have you. And so when kids go into our school buildings every day, that's an equalizer. At home, I just aside from all the challenges I know we're gonna have to get over, I still just feel like even providing a very small number of families with something that could really help them would still be worth researching and looking into. So again, I don't know the answers to all of the questions, but I do think it's something that we should at least look into and review the data and see how many people actually can do that really needs a service like this.
I would
apologize,
that.
Jody, go ahead.
If I can just jump in for a second. We have talked about this. We recognize that we have children out there that don't have internet, that don't have devices. We know that. And we've talked about it. We've talked about it with our principals too. And we're just telling you the challenges. We're not saying we can't do it and we won't do it, but it can't happen like super fast because we've spent all of our time getting everybody where they are today, which I'm super proud of. And I want to make sure that our teachers are very, very clear that we could not be more proud of the hard work that they've put into the last 3 weeks of school. Because I'm watching YouTube comments and I feel like people are getting a little bit disheartened. And I don't want them to feel that way because they're working really hard. And do we have room to make progress? Of course, it's all brand new for us. We start rolling, we master one thing, we add to it, we get better and better. We always work to get better. But we do know that in order for us to put laptops out, we need to put new software on them because they're not firewalled at home. As soon as a kid takes one of our laptops home, they can get on and search anything that they want. So the children have to be protected, and there are laws for that we have to follow with. We need parent agreements. We need, agreements to when the computer breaks, who's going to pay for it, who's responsible for that. If you have kids at the high school or you work at the high school, Elaine, you know that those things need to be in place too. We know that hotspots are on back order. You can't get a hotspot. And when we do get hotspots, they're $10 to $15 a month, and that's with a 2-year contract. So, is that something that we need to do to get us through the next 6 weeks? So we're just trying to wade through all of that and prioritize and decide if we sent computers, which ones would we? How do we even get them back if there's no end of the school year? Because we're hearing districts now that jumped the gun and did a knee-jerk reaction and got computers out to kids, and now they don't know how they're going to get them back. And when we get them back, now what kind of shape are they going to be in? Because we're already kind of, straddling that technology in the classroom piece where we want to be better at that. So are we going to then come back in August and be further behind where we were with technology because now we have computers out that either came back broken or that we didn't get back? So it is complicated and complex, but we're certainly not ignoring it. And we appreciate your feedback on that. And we see that need too. So I just wanted you to know that.
I will say I apologize if you felt like I am not recognizing the work that's been done to this point. That's not at all what I'm trying to do. I'm extremely proud of all the progress that not only teachers are making, but all of our staff in training themselves on now how to train teachers in technology they've never used before. So please don't take that as I'm not looking at the last 4 weeks and all of the progress that has been made.
Sure.
Well, I also think that the teachers are right now, the bar is not low. And it was stated on here that there's a low bar. The bar is not low. They are using data to design instruction and really, really work hard to develop lessons that are interactive in a way to challenge and support our children. So I want to make sure that our teachers realize and our principals realize that we have not set the bar low. We are working really hard, and they are busting their tails every day to use good data and get good things for their children. And they are wanting to do more constantly and learning more and doing so much right now. So and I agree that the bar is not low.
And when I want to chime in on the survey, so I turn, I mean, the learning of our children to me is in the hands of our teachers and our principals and at the school level. And we took it over at the district level in the initial onset because we just weren't sure like what was happening in how many weeks. So from the survey perspective, that was just done at the school level. I didn't collect it at the time until you guys asked, because they know their children, they know what they need, and they know how to connect with them. And so that's what they were using at their site and with their teachers, so that they could design specific plans for their children within the classrooms. So it wasn't until you asked and wanted to kind of see that I then collected it, and I collected it today, and I'll send it to you all. But 9 of our schools, 85% of the students have technology that they can access. And 2 more have 75 to 84% of technology they could access. There's only one of our title schools that's a little bit lower, and of course White Tanks Learning Center, that's of course lower, which would be expected. And then and I think when you go back, and I know that you guys got to see, sorry, there's a fly flying around me right now. When you look at their learning plan, it talks about 1 live lesson along with their already online instructional plan. So it's not just 1 lesson a day, it's 1 live lesson. So kind of stepping outside of that scope for them, and then continuing to provide that feedback. Then the next component that we wanted to make sure is that they had their connection with their kids. And that was getting comfortable with that Zoom and Google Hangout. We know we have some teachers that are Google Hangout, they do it every day, or Zoom every day. Some are getting there. And then a lot of the teachers are really taking on and really loving writing the personal notes. And that's their way of connecting, as well as calling their kids kind of one-on-one and spending that one-on-one time with them. So we wanted to still allow for that flexibility for their teachers. And then having those designated office hours so that people know when they can get on and ask those specific questions, and or schedule one-on-one meetings with their teachers. And so a lot of them are doing that. Then the teachers also have their staff meetings, their IEP meetings, their 504 meetings, their PLC meetings, so that we can keep up and keep our routine and keep the data and keep our plans for our kids. Because as you know, and all those questions, the great questions that you asked, is we do have families experiencing different things. So they're having to make accommodations and actually plans for their individual families and their students on an ongoing basis to meet their needs. But I've even gotten on and looked at online schools. I mean, we were definitely monitoring everything and searching and constantly looking. And I mean, I think our lesson plans have been pretty amazing. We're also ones that, I mean, I know that we always are looking to get better and strive to improve, which is something we always do. But we also have a lot of districts out there copying exactly what we're doing too, which again, kind of puts us in that leading role, which we're very proud of. So.
Yeah, you should be. This is Elaine Weathers. Jody, you should be proud of that. All the teachers that I've talked to have told me exactly what you just said. That they're working, they're excited, they're connecting with their kids. The amount of time that they're spending online, trying to compromise with their own families is working, you know, so yeah, I agree.
This is Kimberly Moran. I'd like to just jump onto what Gina and Megan said earlier as well. Just to make sure that it's clear, I stand by what I said, which is the bar is low, because to me, when I look at this distance learning, the minimum, which is the bar by definition, the minimum requirement to me is too low. I am not saying or implying that there are not teachers going above and beyond. It leaps and bounds above and beyond this, but to have 1 live lesson and 1 classroom meeting per week compared with the number of hours and amount of connection and amount of live lessons that kids would get under a normal classroom setting, to me, the bar is too low, because that tells me that if there's a teacher who can only do that, what are we doing to support that teacher? What are we doing to make sure that teacher can do more? Because if we set the minimum to be so low, I think there are some teachers out there that will do the minimum. Unfortunately, it's not to say that we don't have a lot of teachers who are going above and beyond and doing things that are fantastic and daily contact and things like that. We preach conscious discipline, which has to do with connection and has to do with connection very often. I don't think that we're practicing what we preach by saying we should have once a week celebrations, once a week classroom meetings. The other thing I'd like to say is, from a board perspective, I understand that our role is not to dictate what happens at the school level. However, our role is to help to guide and implement the policies that are in place, as well as our strategic plan that we put into place last year. So two of the things on there, of course, students have always had a close place to my heart, but two of the things there that I don't think this distance learning plan is meeting is foster academic excellence and innovation for all students. I think we're doing that for some students. I don't think the bar is set so that that is covering all students, as well as provide high quality services to all students. Again, I think we're doing that to some, maybe even the majority of our students, but my concern lies with those kids that we know are not getting the support, and they're going to be potentially behind in the long run.
Can I ask you in response to that? Oh, I apologize, Megan. I was just going to ask in response to that, to Jody and to Megan and to Gina, what resources do you feel like you need to do the job that is in front of us? Right. I mean, you have your own expectations, right? Everyone's doing the very best they can. No one denies that. What do you have all of the resources that you need to meet the expectations that's in our strategic plan and in your mind and that your staff works on every day? Is there anything that you do not have right now to meet those expectations?
I would say there may be things that we just don't know what we need, if that makes sense. So as we look at if we're going to deploy technology, what does that look like? What software and components do we need? What does that look like staffing wise? I think Laura Combs has done a great job in providing the PD and making it accessible for teachers and they utilize her daily on studying and learning and practicing and kind of testing those things out. So I think that's something that they've definitely done. Our special ed department has been working around the clock to meet the individual needs of their children and helping them to get the lessons and the supports that they need as well as providing additional supports with the services as what does OT look like? What does speech look like? All those pieces. And they've really, really advanced in that level for sure. So I don't have a list for you. I guess we could look at it. The other piece that we're also monitoring on a big picture is we know our budget's going to be impacted, and it's going to be impacted in education around the state. And so trying to balance all of those pieces too of making sure that we're sound walking into next year. And yes, we do have technology, but I don't know if we'll have the funds to replace technology, if that makes sense too. If we're looking at deployment, we have to be prepared that a lot of it will come back damaged or not come back at all. And what does that look like? So those are all the different pieces. So I would say maybe, in the future when we go out for a bond or maybe a capital override or something along those lines, I think that's definitely what we need to look at, because I think technology is critical and important. And I think our staff would have been set up perfectly if that's how we had already had it set up. It would have been so much easier. They would have been clearly established in Google Hangouts and working with their lessons online or even in that mode. So I think that the comfort level would have definitely been there. I think it was just something that was so unexpected and
right. And I'm sorry, I should have clarified. I meant right now. I mean, long term, obviously, we can make a wish list or a dream list of things now that we know what we could possibly be up against, right? If we have to continue distance learning long term. I just mean in the next month, in the next 6 weeks, what do you guys need to support our teachers. If in order to meet the expectations that we're discussing right now out on the table, if teachers need support, what resources do they need that we can provide? I guess I feel like the conversation is getting to the point where we're saying that nothing is good enough, and that's not the intention, at least my intention, and I'll always speak for myself. What I'm trying to get at is the Litchfield way has always been to support each other and to take care of each other and to strive for excellence. And this situation should be no different. So how can we continue to strive for excellence and support our teachers and do what they need to do? Whether that's 1 lesson or 15 lessons. To me, that's not my job to determine how many lessons a week we have. But what I'm hearing is that we need things in order to continue doing that. I'm asking, what are those things? Because as a board, that would be my job to give those to you. If we don't have what we need to have the best online learning program out there, what is the need? If we do have the resources and we do have the best online learning program, that's just what I need to hear.
Well, quite honestly,
not a matter of
we have been, as an admin team, we have been really excited about our rollout and our phase plan and our teachers diving in, our principals working so closely together to support the diverse group of people they have on their campuses. They have meetings daily with each PLC, and they're talking through, how are you planning this week, and really getting together and getting good plans in place. We're hearing feedback from our parents that there's good plans in place. We're feeling good. So until tonight, I was feeling like we were in a really, really good place with where we were going and moving forward. So I think tonight, if we're hearing that we need to do something different, then our team's going to have to get back together to figure this out and look forward, because truly as an admin team, we were feeling really good and confident with the resources we had right now to get this job done the way we felt needed to get done.
This is Elaine Weathers. I'd like to jump on top of that as well. So resources that you might need. We've already heard that the hotspots are on back order, correct? If we're getting a survey result that says up to 20% of each campus does not have technology needs, that's roughly, 1,320, I'm just throwing it out there, but computers that we would need to deploy out. That also means the hotspots that are not available. The opportunity for people to deliver these products, not to mention the software that's going on to them. That's a huge task, and 6 weeks, like Kim has been saying, is a short amount of time. I don't know how that could happen. I don't know if Danielle asking what it is that you need, is this a location that people can come that are 6 feet apart to get maybe online technology, but then again, we're stepping outside of what we're being mandated to do. So it's a rock and a hard place. And I know that increasing what our requirements are, I have no doubt that the district office, any teacher that's not meeting the expectations that are currently set, that those individuals be the ones to be worked with and coached with, not requiring other people that are already going above and beyond to feel more pressure at this point.
Yeah, Elaine, this is Kimberly Moran. Raising the bar wouldn't ask teachers who are already doing above and beyond to do anything more than that. It would just assure that all students are getting a bare minimum amount of what we deem as a district to be meeting their academic needs in this unprecedented, unparalleled, unusual situation. So I do understand that from a board perspective, we haven't gotten that feedback, Megan. We didn't get administrators' reports this month. We didn't get anything at the school level to know what is or isn't being done. My experience is based on my own child's experience, as well as other parents that I've talked to, and literally reading the distance learning plan. So maybe the presentation could have been a little different or something. I'm not sure, but my job is to provide feedback on what I can see is happening. And I'm not seeing all those things that you're saying are happening. Even from the survey feedback that I got, again, that seemed very skewed to me because it was only a few schools. So maybe this is a huge misunderstanding, and 95% of parents think everything is fantastic and their kids are learning just as much, if not more, than they would be otherwise, and they're going to go into the next grade and be 100% ready for that. That's just not what I'm seeing in what I was provided as information, and what I've experienced myself through talking with other parents.
Okay, I'm going to jump in here and kind of corral our comments at this point. I'm going to, before we move on to the next agenda item, I'm going to ask that of the board members and Jody, of the conversation that you've seen or that you've heard here today, any specific requests from board members to the staff of things to look into or future follow-up questions or things like that. I don't think we're making any additional progress here doing this. So I think there's been a few requests. I know that for me personally, my hot button is technology. I'd like to see the technology results. Jody, I know that you just mentioned what those are, so you know, you can send those out. That would be great. I'd also like to at least hear about some of the things that you guys are already doing. I apologize if I made it seem like you haven't even thought of this. Of course you thought of this, right? I don't know that information, so I'm asking the question because that's my job as a board member, to ask these questions. It's not that you haven't thought about it. It's not that you haven't researched. It's not that you haven't done all of the work. And maybe the rollout is impossible. I don't know. I just like to see the information that shows me that. Because right now, whether it's 15 or 20 or 25% on certain campuses that don't have the technology they need, I want to try to remedy that if we can. If we can't, we can't. But I'd just like to see the information that says we can't and why we can't do it. So that is my next step, is I'd just really like to see what we can do to help those kiddos, even if it is just on a one-to-one basis. Clearly not providing technology to everyone, but just the kids that are most at risk of not feeling the connection that they need to feel right now. So that is my next step, and I feel like we got a little skewed in the conversation, and I feel like this is not a productive use of our time at this point. So any other board members that would like to give some direction or specific feedback to be followed up on, now is the time.
Melissa, I do want to follow up to something Kim had said, just something I would like for information from us. I do think it's important for us to know how many kids we haven't reached yet, because I think Kim is in that regard, that the kids we haven't reached are the ones that need us the most. School is a safe place, is the only safe place for some kids, and those are the ones that are going to be the most impacted by what's happening right now. So for me, I would be more concerned about our district making sure we're doing everything we can to out to those kids and above trying to get more technology out or trying to add more lessons, like live lessons or live meetings with the classes, because I think that we need to make sure that we're concerned about the whole child, because that's something our district really prides itself on, and I want to see us continue to do that as we move forward.
Absolutely. And I can get the numbers from the principals, but also, and then I'll just put on there all the modes in which they've reached out to.
Just really briefly, just to sort of piggyback onto some of that, you know, in the big picture, if we have to manage this down the road, it's obviously going to look different than what we've got right now, you know, and our everybody's scrambling to figure out how to make this work. But one of the big things is I don't think that the more we rely on live things that are going to require the internet, that are going to require a computer, the larger our gap is going to be unless we have that technology piece addressed. I mean, listening to all the pieces, I don't think it's realistic that that's going to happen this year. Hopefully it doesn't have to be an issue. You know, we're not going to have to ever do this again, but who knows, we might, right? So I think that when we look at this big picture, trying to beef everything up, we can't rely more on that piece without making that equity gap larger until we have the computer issue addressed for all kids, because that gap will just get bigger and bigger the more we add to those, you know, large, you know, online portions. So just kind of putting all those pieces together, that's kind of what I come out of this with. So just sort of to plant that seed, I think that's something, you know, again, I don't see how it's remotely possible to do what we would love to be able to do from a monetary perspective, from a legal perspective, you know, all those pieces we talked about, you know, the amount of money of just sending these computers out and who knows what comes back and what doesn't come back. I mean, again, it's so gigantic, I can't even wrap my head around it. But again, if we do find ourselves in a place that we think we need to make a plan for big picture down the road, I think that's where we have to start, you know, regardless of lesson plans or anything else.
Kim, Elaine, any final follow-ups for the district?
No, nothing more from me on that. I do think, I know I just said nothing more, but having that list of what it would really look like, because then it's all going to come down to funding and the budget and what we could feasibly do.
Yeah, my only follow-up to that would be, you know, if we were to buy, I'm not sure how much a Chromebook costs, but let's say $300, that would be software and everything included. And we've got even 2,000 students that need that. That's $600,000. This district has been extremely conservative over time, and we have a rainy day fund. And I feel like it is raining cats and dogs for these students that don't have access to potentially be learning, again, in an equitable way, what other students have access to. So just food for thought there.
Great. Thank you, Kim. Jody, any questions on those follow-up items? Are we good to press forward? You're on mute, Jody.
You're mute.
I'm sorry, Jody, your microphone is muted. Can you repeat that again?
Sorry. I said I'll have Amy follow up with you all to make sure that we caught everything.
Okay. Perfect. Okay, we are going to move on to our action discussion section. That's number 13. We did not have any items removed from our consent agenda tonight, so we'll bypass that. And the employee compensation exceptions and monthly stipend. Jody, do you want to just give us a brief explanation of what this is?
Okay, so this is the information that came out from the recommendation from our attorney after the Attorney General had done some auditing on certain campuses, or not campuses, I shouldn't say, in certain other districts, and kind of changed their mode of what they were looking for. So from the recommendation from our legal counsel is that we needed to go backwards from the time frame of when I actually started to make sure that we had approved any type of thing that I had done that was a salary exception or an exception to a bonus, anything along those lines that were compensation related. And as you have kind of seen already, we bring the exceptions current to the board meetings on a regular basis. So this is kind of just backtracking to kind of clean up everything so that if the Attorney General were to come knock on my door and visit me, we're in compliance.
Does anyone have any questions about this? I think it's pretty easy explanation, but just want to make sure that everyone was able to see the attachments and go through that. If we don't have any questions for discussion, I will move that we approve the employee compensation exceptions as noted. Anyone like to second?
I second.
I second. Elaine Weathersby, I second.
Okay. Again, our last one, we're going to do a roll call vote. Elaine, how do you vote?
Elaine Weathersby, yay.
Melissa?
Melissa Zeidema, yay.
Tanya?
Tanya Fitzer, yay.
And Kim?
Kimberly Moran, yay.
This is Danielle Clymer. I also vote yay, so that is 5 and the motion carries. All right, perfect. Well, before we end, thank you so much to everyone who joined us in this non-traditional format for our meeting. Thank you to our everything board members and our district staff and Jody for joining us. We will keep you posted on how the May meeting will come together, but please stay safe, continue to socially distance from others, and we will follow up with all the details from this meeting at our next meeting. Melissa, would you like to do the honors?
I motion to adjourn the meeting.
I second.
All right, thank you, Tanya. I will do our last roll call vote. Elaine, how do you vote?
Elaine Weathersby, yay.
Tanya?
Tanya Fitzer, yay.
Kim?
Kimberly Moran, yay.
Melissa,
Melissa's Idema, yay.
and Danielle Clymer. That is affirmative for me as well. So motion carries and we are adjourned. Thank you very much to everybody. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Good
Bye-bye.
night, everyone.
All right, we're up.
Just start hitting X's.